I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Welcome back to News du Jour. If you're new here, I wanted to start off with the disclaimer that while we promise to be a calmer space to consume the news, that's not to say that bad stuff doesn't happen. And when it does, we're going to be here to tell you about it and acknowledge its seriousness. However, we believe there's a lot more than doom and gloom going on in the world, and we will report on a range of different topics from entertainment to business to politics to art and fashion and much more. Whatever the top stories of the day are, that is what we're excited to tell you about. We're glad you're here. Today's episode of News du Jour was made possible by Anchor. So I actually use and love Anchor, a free tool for podcasters. It's everything you need to create, distribute, and make money from your podcast all in one place. It even has a matching app that makes tracking updates to your following super easy. You can download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, that's ANCHOR.FM today to get started. So, for our first story, I wanted to discuss that there is no such thing as a quote-unquote hate crime in Georgia. Legally, anyway. And they're not alone in this. Apparently, there are 4 states in the United States that do not have any hate crime laws: Georgia, Arkansas, South Carolina, and Wyoming. So yesterday, Ahmaud Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, released an opinion video with the New York Times that advocated for passing a hate crime bill in the state of Georgia. Lots of Georgia-based companies have already come out in favor of the law, as well as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Luckily, the Justice Department is already investigating this particular case for a federal hate crime. But come on, there should totally be state-level accountability for that as well. Hate crime is too real, and the law needs to reflect that in order to help prevent it. So hopefully she will make a difference by making that video in this really difficult time for her. Our second story is a special one. I kind of wanted to share some cool stories of support for the protests because there's a lot of them happening. So they're going to kind of be like mini stories, I guess, that all have to do with the protests. So let's get into them. So for our first little mini story, I wanted to talk about the Sikh religion. If you're not familiar with it, this religion's name is spelled S-I-K-H, and it originates in India. The men tend to wear turbans, a steel bracelet, and a wooden comb, as well as a couple other things that are less obvious to just see, but they're often mistaken as Muslim here in the United States. A little fun fact about me, I got to go visit a Sikh landmark, the Golden Temple, when I visited India in my early college years. And I ate dinner there. Why? Because in the Sikh religion, they really believe in feeding the hungry. It is an integral part of their religious practice called langar. They serve 3 meals a day for free out of the Golden Temple in India. How amazing, right? The homeless and travelers alike flock to the site to experience this enormous act of giving. And I ate with hundreds, if not thousands of people there that night. And it was pretty dark and yet glowy and a very chaotic but cool experience, and not to mention delicious. The food was great. It was just a typical evening there, but an incredible sight to see for me. So during the protests, the Sikh community of Queens, New York actually showed up to feed the protesters as an act of solidarity and to provide them with strength and fortitude to keep protesting. The act is being reported on worldwide as a beautiful collision of cultures coming together around a common cause, the safety and respect of the Black community. So for our next mini story, the New York Stock Exchange. So to pause the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange is a huge deal. It means no financial progress is being made in our country, gasp, and I mean really worldwide. The New York Stock Exchange is relied upon as a indicator of how global economies are doing and like we talked about the other day, how our economy is doing. It's a huge deal to just shut it down. But on Tuesday, as George Floyd's funeral services began in Houston, they stopped as a symbolic gesture for the cause. They paused the New York Stock Exchange for exactly 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the amount of time that Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck, murdering him in the streets. This is the longest it has been paused ever in the New York Stock Exchange 228 years of existing. And it definitely sent a strong signal to a president focused more on Wall Street than avenging the death of George Floyd and countless other Black innocents. Our last mini story is about Mitt Romney. We totally did not expect to see Mitt show up at the protest, but there he was in all his senatorial glory. He wore a mask and he walked with a Christian group that supports BLM. When asked why he was marching, he responded, quote, "A heinous murder was carried out by a person with a badge." And he continued, quote, "I state the obvious, which is that Black Lives Matter. If there's injustice, we want to correct it. If there's prejudice, we want to change that. If there's bias, we hope to give people a different perspective and provide a sense of equality among our people," end quote. He was the first Republican senator to march. And while he's spoken out against the Democrats' new legislation, he does plan to introduce his own new legislation that he feels the Republican-controlled Senate can agree to. So we'll have to wait and see what he comes up with, but it's really cool, I feel like, to see a middle emerging because for so long in this country, it's been either or, and unfortunately, this issue has been politicized on Twitter, and it's cool to see Republican organizations and leaders really stepping out and saying, you know, I don't have to go with the grain on this, and just kind of carving out a middle space between the two parties. And that's really nice to see. To round out this story, though, I also wanted to note that NASCAR has just announced that it will be banning the Confederate flag from its races and properties. However, the president said that he would not consider removing them from military bases. Why they're on U.S. military bases in the first place is something that I don't understand, but Pentagon leaders actually said they were open to the change, so that might be happening. For our third and final story, I wanted to head over to Artland. If you guys didn't know this about me, I was actually an art history major. So I love to see current events intersecting with the creation of art, as they have throughout history. What we memorialize in art says something about our culture to future generations. What I want to talk about today in terms of this intersection is the mysterious BANKSY. If you're not familiar with his work, we don't know who BANKSY is. He is a graffiti artist whose identity has long evaded the art world. We have no idea where he is from, what he looks like, or even if he's a he. I'm not even 100% sure how he got the name BANKSY, spelled BANKSY. And the internet seems to be somewhat confused about that as well. but his art will pop up all over the world and he has long been seen as a social critic. He is referred to as England-based, quote unquote, because that's where he first popped up and that's where a lot of his art has been. But he definitely has a recognizable style and has been seen all over the world. There was even a documentary film made about him with his face blurred out and his voice disrupted called Exit Through the Gift Shop, and that was even nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary. So, what is this latest piece that has the art world buzzing? Well, it seems to be a piece in support of Black Lives Matter. We can see a large American flag seemingly hanging on a wall, but at the bottom of the right-hand corner, it's caught on fire by a candle. The candle sits next to a framed photo that actually has flowers surrounding its base, almost like a little shrine or memorial. But the picture in the frame is simply a darkened out black figure with glaring eyes. You can actually follow him on Instagram. His handle is just BANKSY, BANKSY, and his Instagram post of this image actually has some words on the last slide, and it reads as, quote, "At first, I thought I should just shut up and listen to Black people about this issue. But why would I do that? It's not their problem. It's mine. People of color, spelled with a U, by the way, are being failed by the system, the white system. It's like a broken pipe flooding the apartment of the people living downstairs. It's a faulty system, but it's making their life a misery, and it's not their job to fix it. They can't. No one will let them in the apartment upstairs. This is a white problem, and if white people don't fix it, someone will have to come upstairs and kick the door in." End quote. Pretty powerful. Definitely head to his Instagram and check out the piece for yourself. And that's the news du jour. So I wanted today to leave you guys with the quote, "Success is liking yourself, liking what you do and how you do it." And I just, again, as always, hope this quote inspires you to be more confident and just own who you are and how you do life. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review would mean the world to us and help us keep being able to create the news du jour for free for you guys, if I can talk today. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram, sugarfree_media on Twitter, and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. You can also subscribe to our emails on our blog so you get an email alert every time we have a new post or announcement, and that's at www.sugarfreemedia.co. And I just wanted to let you guys know, I just posted something that a bunch of people have asked for, and that is a way to get started actually making a commitment to do some work educating yourself on Black Lives Matter and Black history and culture in general. So if you want to check that out, it's just a worksheet that you fill out on a weekly basis, and that's up on the blog today. Our music here on the podcast is by Joey Lavoie and Nicholas Foster. Our cover art is by Hannah Pierce Photography. Our Sugar Free Media logo is by Catherine Jezik Designs. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time. Broadcasting from Oklahoma.